What up, y'all? It's your boy, Sheik Luch, LOXD Block, Silverback Gorilla up in here. Hey, yo, Po, what's good, fam? You know what I'm saying? Right now, we PoPolitickin with my homie, Po. You heard? PoPolitickin, that's hard. You know what I mean? Where self-help meets hip-hop. You know what I mean? That's what it is, man. Po, was good. DJ period, just two black brothers. You know what I'm saying? We three black brothers. The Locks doing what we do, too. You know what I mean? Preserving the hip-hop culture and all that, and introducing the future stars. Hey, yo, keep shining, King. You already know what it is, man. We got you over here. You do your thing over there. Sheik Luch, LOXD Block. Yeah, PoPolitickin. Peace.
Yo, I'm politicking with the homie Po at PoPolitickin. Self-help meets hip-hop. That's fucking beautiful. What up, Po? What up, DJ period? Just two black brothers. I see y'all out there doing what y'all do, preserving the hip-hop culture and introducing the future stars. Keep shining, kings. Real and recognize real. Love is love. Salute. Yeah.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Kissing. Right now, I'm politicking with the homie Po at PoPolitickin. Self-help meets hip-hop. What up, Po? DJ period. Just two black brothers. I see you, you know what I mean? Preserving the hip-hop culture and introducing the future stars. Keep shining, kings. Real recognize real. Salute.
Oh, no. I got out a long time ago. I got out 2004.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know if reserves or anything.
Nah, I started working in I was working in laboratory like biotech. So I just been in that field. No, I got out. I've been let me cut this up. I got this playing. 2004. All right, we're gonna start right now. All right, welcome back to PoPolitickin.com, your home for self-help meets hip-hop. Right now we're live on YouTube. Check me out on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. 1212 and place to be. Yes, Maxie Collier. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, Chris. I'm happy to be up on your podcast today, man.
Yeah, I call you bro. See, you like, why you calling me bro? But you really my brother. You don't even know why. You don't even know why you my brother, huh?
Nah, you could break it down.
All right, man. So back in the day, I started my podcast in 2008. But I think before I did my podcast, I saw a documentary called Paper Chasers, and it changed my life.
Oh, I'm grateful to hear that, man. I'm grateful to hear that. So so when you saw Paper Chasers, did you see it on cable, on DVD, or where did you experience?
I want to say I saw it on DVD.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it on DVD. So I saw. I know. I want to say it must have been in the source or something. You had it promoting somewhere because I ran across it and I had the DVD.
I'm grateful, man. So Koch E1 was promoting. You know, Maxie Collier was sitting there looking and counting, saying, when these motherfuckers gonna cut a check from me? Yes.
No, so I say, I guess I want to. So I know the 20th anniversary is coming up.
Yes.
But just before we get into the documentary and the purpose behind it, I just wanted you to kind of just introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say, Po, much respect to you for 10 years of podcasting, bro. What is it, 300 plus episodes you have up there or something?
Well, I started in 2008, so I've been 14 years now.
Yeah, exactly. So how many episodes total have you filmed?
Man, we probably did it's a couple of hundreds. I'm going to say at least 500 probably.
Man. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah. So you should be putting together like some sort of little compilation of your interviews, or we should look forward to seeing some sort of PoPolitickin book or magazine or some compilation of interviews, huh?
Correct. That's the next step.
That'll be great, man. But yeah, so just to give a little background, my name is Maxie Collier. I'm a technology creator, producer, and publisher, but I'm really an OG, and that stands for original geek. I've been using personal computers since 1981 when I was a teenager, and it was that foundation of personal computers and hip hop that impacted everything that I did in media in the years that followed. So I've been fortunate enough. I started my TV career at Black Entertainment Television in the 90s. I was working there January 2nd, 1990. So most of the 90s I spent at BET in DC during the heydays of not just, hip hop, of, independent hip hop and stuff, but also independent Black movies, independent publishing. I saw folks coming through BET, John Singleton standing there before his first movie was ever released, RIP to John Singleton, the Hudlin brothers coming through there, the Hughes brothers coming through there, Spike Lee, so I was working as a stage manager at BET, and that provided me access to all these people as there was these movements in independent Black arts. You know, again, it wasn't just the movies. I mean, there was folks like Omar Tyree, the author who, you know, his first self-published book, going up and down Georgia Avenue there in DC, you know, him coming through, Zane. You know, I put the mic on Zane when she, you know, had her first book out, you know, self-published, you know, and it was doing a show called Our Voices. You know, I put the mic on Master P when he was doing his first interview at BET. And I always tell this story about doing the sound check. You know, I had the headphones on and I was getting ready to give him the mic. And then I said, hey, man, can you give us a sound check? And he said, and everybody cracked up in the studio and they were like clowning him. Now, my family's from Tennessee and Georgia. You know, so in terms of Southern dialects and things like that, Southern hip hop, that was always a part of me. But there I was in the DMV, and they were immediately trying to clown Master P for his sounds, his way of speaking, his way of approaching. But 2 years later, Chris, from that time I put that mic on him at BET, he was on Black Enterprise for having made his first fortune in music, you know. So it was during that time there in the 90s, watching all these hip hop heads and all these independent artists, but even more, just as much, Bob Johnson, the founder of BET, you know, I got to talk to him just like you and I are talking now, you know, because, and it was before BET went national. It was in like 8 million homes or something. So I got to be there watching this. Bob and his wife, Sheila Johnson. A lot of people always talk about Bob Johnson, but his wife, Sheila, was there for the whole thing, you know? So I got to watch them build BET from this mom and pop shop up through being a corporate entity. You know, I watched friends who got stock in it and things, and, you know, as it went public, you know, so it was just amazing to see normal folks like you and I share their ideas and their dreams. And then you look up and you're seeing it manifest, you know, and that's what gave me the inspiration to do Paper Chasers. You know,
it's funny you mentioned BET because I just interviewed, I don't know if you know Paul Porter.
Absolutely. In fact, his son's name
last week,
and his son's name is Chris Porter. So
no, that's his. He said that's his cousin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's funny. Yeah. Is that? Yeah,
his
man.
nephew. That's his nephew.
Okay. Yeah. Now I worked with Paul, you know, countless times over the years. You know, when he was the you know, unseen. No, that was Alvin Jones who was the unseen VJ. But yeah, you know, Capitan Paul Porter.
Yeah, the captain.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because he said, I know he was saying. So how long did you work at BET?
I freelanced there for 7 years. I worked full time for 2 years, and then 5 more years I freelanced after that. So yeah, I was there all from 90 to 90s. Like I said, you know, I was there watching Tupac when he was watching digital. So here was the situation. You know, I was going to Howard University. You know, I had been in and out of college, but I was publishing this little magazine called Black Reflections Magazine. You know, this was back when Black consciousness, you know, it was like the first wave of being woke. I tell my nephews, you know, it was, you know, Public Enemy, it was Chuck D, it was KRS-One, who were educating a generation of us, you know, and having grown up in the suburbs, even though my parents were Afrocentric, taught us Black history and taught us Black consciousness, growing up in the suburbs, we weren't exposed to these things in the school system or even in our general culture at large. You know, so as I got older and as an older teenager, I began to realize how much history and information had been kept from us. So I took my computer experience, and at that time, the emerging trend was called desktop publishing. It was at that time when printing was just moving into the digital world. So I was able to take my computer experience, take this desktop publishing experience, and as a teenager, publish this magazine, you know, and again, I was sharing, you know, talking about the last poets, you know, talking about Gil Scott Heron, you know, sharing these lessons that had been taught to me by my parents, my sensei, who was named Ali Hassan, and a bunch of other people. So I was doing that for a couple of years while in and out of school, kind of dabbling, because what happened when I did the little publication, all these OGs started hitting me up about helping them publish their books, their magazines, their dissertations. So at that time, I was the young G who was bringing technology to a lot of the OGs. Now I'm the OG.
The super OG. You was a super OG, really.
Well, now I'm the OG, you know, bringing technology to the young folks and the OGs, you know, so it's like being right there in the middle. And I kind of relish this position. You know, my wife and our son is 21, you know, so he constantly keeps us up on things related to the younger generation, you know, so when we talk about Web3, when we talk about NFTs, when we talk about the blockchain and some of these emerging technologies, I go straight to the youth all day long. I will humbly get up on Clubhouse and listen to these young folks, because they're the ones who are schooling us about these emerging, it's now the digital first generation has grown up, so there's lessons, again, the first digital thing in my house, the personal computer we got was 1984. I was 15 years old before there was a digital thing other than a calculator in my house. These kids are growing up with their iPads and with their tablets and their other things. They're swiping left and right. And so what I tell folks is I say, look, if we were the old school processors, the 486, the 586 processors, this new generation, they're learning 10 times faster than us. They're having to retain 10 times as much information as us,
You know what's crazy, man? My son and my daughter are 1 and 2, and they know how to unlock my phone.
Hey, if you're not careful, they'll be ordering something off of Amazon soon.
And they start pressing their finger. Next thing you know, and I got a password and everything. They start pressing their fingers. Next thing they know, they done unlock the phone. I'm like, so I hear you. I feel you.
So what happens when kids start learning how to code in elementary school? What happens when they're learning these engineering and math concepts, having to know them at a very young age? And that brings us up to another issue that they used to call the digital divide. 20, 30 years ago, when Web 1.0 was first starting, they realized that people who had access to the web and the internet had access to infinite knowledge and resources, and therefore they could develop differently than the people who did not have that access, right? So now everybody's got a mobile phone, everybody's got a computer right there in their pocket, but there are still tools and technology and resources that if you do not know about, your path in this digital world is just going to be complicated. If you don't understand the concept of a digital wallet, let's just take that, our generation, I'm 53, 54 this year, so my generation didn't grow up believing that you can have a digital picture that could have thousands and millions of dollars in value, but this digital first generation, they grew up with the little Pokemon cards and they grew up with the little Tamagotchi things. And, so what I have to do with my generation and older is I have to make parallels for them. I have to go into these conversations saying, okay, yes, you laugh at the kid who spent $500,000 on the JPEG for an NFT, but you will go out there and chase a baseball card, or you'll go out there and chase certain collectible tennis shoes or comics and other things like that. So the idea of collectibles is not foreign. It's consistent across the generations. My granddad and them were collecting stamps. You know what I'm saying? My homies were collecting comic books and the little football players and baseball cards. So for this generation, when you get up here with the blockchain, and the blockchain is keeping track of transactions publicly for us. That's what the blockchain is. It's a public ledger that's keeping track of information. So now you can have an NFT, a non-fungible token, and it could show you as the owner is being documented on the blockchain, just like Zillow, just like Carfax show histories of items. That's the same thing that the blockchain is doing for us as content creators nowadays, and not just content creators, content owners, because so when I look back at Paper Chasers, and when I look at, all these hundreds of hours of videos that we shot, all these hundreds of photos and things like that, but I was forced to try to make a movie that encapsulated all that. So I was forced to make an 88-minute movie, right? But there was all these untold stories, and so for the longest time, people would come back to me and say, Maxie, we want to buy your catalog of interviews. We want to buy your photos. Now, for me, I'm sitting here saying, okay, I have a son about to go to college. Should we take this $50,000 or $100,000 check? And this is a few years ago in particular, the business models are different now. There was a certain time where everyone was going out trying to buy people's archives so that the time that is now, they can go exploit them. See, there was a lull between the DVD era and the streaming era. All the distribution deals were fucked up for about 5 or 6 years because in the 2000s, we had all that DVD money. We had all those advances and all the production budgets and things like that, but by the time you get up here, to 2008, 2009, that's when some of your favorite labels start falling apart and some of your favorite artists start dropping off, because the record business went through a transition for a number of years as it went digital. Television went through a transition, it's still going through it. Movies through the transition. So the business models weren't clear. You know, what happened is the technology finally got here, but how we were going to get paid wasn't clear for a long time. Like if you remember, YouTube started in 2006. It was years before they figured out how to pay the content creators. You know,
it was a long time, like probably like 6 years later.
Exactly. And then that's when they opened it up for the masses. And then as soon as it started working, they shut it down and put all these strict criteria because the machine was rolling at that point, you know. And so that leads us to this discussion of intellectual property. And, you know, whether it's photos, videos, podcasts, scripts, books, trademarks, copyrights, the number one commodity outside of digital currencies right now is intellectual property, which is why there have been all these institutionalized fuckery, is what I call it. There's been institutionalized fuckery in the entertainment business. It first started with financing and production, when we had to go beg people for money just because the cameras were so expensive, you know. But then it reached the point, you know, where people started realizing, okay, let me go grab these movies, let me go grab these songs, so I can now aggregate like Spotify. I can grab this stuff, aggregate it together, serve it to people who are willing to pay subscriptions, and drop my expenses down on producing and acquiring content, because now I'm just aggregator. One of the most successful streaming platforms right now doesn't produce content.
Tubi, that's my shit.
Thank you. Tubi, exactly.
They was talking about, I told my wife the other day how they was talking about how Netflix dropped all those subscriptions. I was like, some of that shit because of Tubi. I don't care what they said.
Man, and not only that though, you talk to the filmmakers, they're like, the checks are flowing from Tubi.
Yep.
You know, and so let's keep it going. And then the other one, Pluto TV,
yep.
You know, so it's all these ad-supported businesses are actually where the loot's coming from. So now we see.
Tubi said forever free. So Tubi, I just looked on it the other day. It said free forever. So they figured something out.
And that's why Roku channel is chasing them. You know, that's why Pluto TV is blue. So these linear streaming channels, ad-supported, the main money right now is linear streaming channels, ad-supported, and subscriptions in the OnlyFans model. In terms of, as a content creator, these are some of the clearest ones. You know, if you want to sit at home in Idaho and start a business, filming videos of your feet, OnlyFans is there for you, and they will pay you, and you will find an audience there. You know, so think how different that is than the YouTube, where it's like, okay, upload all your shit to us. We're going to run ads against it, and we're going to make as much money off of it as possible, and may throw you some coins if you become popular. Whereas with the subscription model, you could have, to use the old statement, 1,000 loyal true fans, as was advocated by some in the mid 2000s. The concept of 1,000 true fans came about. You know, the idea that if you have 1,000 fans who are paying you $5 a month, you've got $60,000 a year income. If you can create some content for $30,000, then you can keep that shit going just with those 1,000 fans. That concept came about in the mid 2000s. OnlyFans validates that, you know, as one particular model, and not just for the porn content. You know, there's yoga instructors, art instructors, all sorts of people.
Question: what do you think? So, what's the difference between what do you think the difference between Patreon and OnlyFans?
So with Patreon, it's the donors. Okay, it goes back to the history of artists, going back in the time of the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo and all those things. You had to go find patrons. You had to have wealthy patrons to subsidize your art development and your career. That's the Patreon model. Those patrons, most likely, they understand the system of artistic development. You know, most successful patrons understand that an artist may make a sketch today. 6 months from now, it may be color. 2 years from now, it may be masterful. So there are typically, the art patron is going to be like an angel investor. They're going to be patient to their payoff, right? Whereas in the subscription model, I'm not necessarily doing it out of just the good of my heart. I'm doing it because you've got something I want, and I'm willing to pay you for it. You know, and I'm willing to pay you for it now. If you stop giving me what I want, I'm probably going to stop, right? But if in the patron model, if I'm riding with an artist, I'm going to roll with that artist until they achieve their goals or until they turn me off, you know. And that's what we're seeing with the NFTs. You know, we're seeing people go jump on Discord, jump on Facebook, jump on Clubhouse, build these small communities around their art, and then go to places like OpenSea.io or Rarible.io, upload their art and bring their audience there with them and begin doing transactions, you know. And that's why I'm so excited now. But I'll tell you, Chris, there was a period of time where, man, I was like, fuck media making. It's only exploitation. And I'll tell you around the time it happened for me, it was around the time when Michael Jackson and Prince died. Okay, Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, right? As all of them went, you know, I was sitting there saying to myself over and over again, who's getting paid on these catalogs? Who owns these catalogs? Because see, that was what Paper Chasers opened my eyes to. It opened my eyes to the fact that some of our favorite childhood artists that we grew up loving, MC Lyte, just as an example, did not own their own names, did not own their own works. If they wrote it or if they stole it, someone else owned it, you know. And we can go look through history. So many people were embarrassed to talk to me on Paper Chasers because they did not want to say, I don't own my name. I don't own my publishing. If I go out and do a concert tour, I'm having to pay publishers, managers, agents, and I'm getting 10%, 20, 15% of what I'm doing out here on stage. That's straight pimping in the negative way. You know, that is straight exploitation, you know. And so once I saw that world, and here's the thing, it's layers of it. You know, so here you are, you have the successful, you know, a successful label. You know, in this case, let's take Siobhan Dean and them. You know, I interviewed them from Rough Riders, you know, Rough Riders Records. At the time I interviewed Siobhan Dean in the year 2000, Rough Riders was at the top of the game. DMX, RIP, Eve, you know, the Locks, they were rolling, right? But here's what happens, and here's what we saw over and over again. Whether you are the independent artist down in Houston, Sucker Free Records, you know, or whether you are the you know, you've blown up like, you know, Siobhan Dean and them, the labels, once they see that you're making money, once they see a particular artist, they're going to come to that artist and they're going to directly start whispering shit in that artist's ear to try to form a divide. So
the same thing they did with Jay-Z and Dame Dash too, then.
I mean, at every level of, you know, so basically in the mid 2000s to the late 2000s, these independent labels that we were hearing that were getting multi-million-dollar deals, they were basically replacing the A&R that we had in the 80s and 90s. It was the idea that if I started an independent label, if I found an artist, if I invested time and money to cultivate that artist, and if I validated those sales, see, at that time, you were able to do distribution deals. You were able to go to Southwest Wholesale and some of these places, take your physical product, as Luda said, you know, 50,000 sold, $7 a pop, right? Well, he was making it for $1. So you got $350,000 of revenue for something that you made for $50,000. That was, we were able to do that. We were able to build businesses out the back of our trunk in the physical era.
Yeah.
In this new, and it doesn't matter if it was print books, DVDs, or music, or clothing. Now in this digital era, we have to approach the game differently. You know, we have to reboot. we have to digitize.
Yeah.
All that ripping and running up and down the roads. When we did Paper Chasers, we spent thousands on FedEx. You know,
I was gonna ask you just so, because Paul was kind of talking about the same thing with radio. So can you just talk about what digitalization is for anybody listening so they understand?
Yes. Okay. You know, so when radio, music, when Thomas Edison and Marconi and those OG white dudes in the 1800s came up, started these industries, they created something called analog recording, analog distribution. This is the process of taking regular sound waves. Just like if I took 2 spoons and tap them together, they make sound waves, right? So those dudes learn how to turn those sound waves into electric signals, regular electric signals that could carry those sound waves. That was called analog, right? That was the process of distributing the highs and the lows, the peaks and valleys, just like when we're editing and we're looking in the timeline and we see the peaks and valleys of an audio signal. They were transmitting that over radio waves. Now, when things started going digital in the 90s, first it was digital music. Well, first it was digital print, but we're talking about, other media. It was digital music. So some of those earliest computers, instead of using a real piano, now we had an electronic keyboard that didn't sound quite as good, but it had memory. It could store things. It could play back things, all because it was in digital form. Then when the CD came out, it introduced people to the idea of digital, because now the world was going from albums to compact disc. And so that introduced the people to the idea of digital music. Oh, wow. There's no static in it. There's no pops in it. The tapes that we used to record, they were vulnerable to the elements. You can have an audio magnetic tape and a piece flake off, and now your sound is distorted. Once things returned to the digital was the process of turning these analog waves into what we call binary data. That is 0 and 1s. That's every single wave song that you see, a wave form is really built on this binary data of 0 and 1s. It's a counting system. Just like we count in decimals with tens, they use the binary system, which is 0s and 1s. Then there's another one that we use in computers called the hexadecimal system. Now more people understand hexadecimal because they're copying color codes from pictures and other things like that. Most people use hexadecimal numbers in relationship to colors when doing art and stuff online. So there's binary, hexadecimal, which is counting by 15. Then there's decimal, which we use regular. These were all concepts of digital that we had to learn. But now people are learning in use, so it went to digital music. Then we started turning video editing digital in the mid 90s. Then we went to digital cinematography later on. So we went from standard definition to high definition to 2K to 4K to 8K to 12K. Yeah. And so that's all that increasing. So then we started doing the digital distribution of, like in 1999, I worked for a company called Ifilm, which was one of the first streaming networks. And at that time, we were so excited just to stream little tiny quarters of a screen, because the hardware and the software wasn't there yet. It would take between 99 and 2006 before that YouTube thing popped off. Now what we're seeing is a similar evolution as we talk about Web3. Cryptocurrency's been around for 10 years, but it really was during the pandemic and the lockdown the more people began to understand that cryptocurrency wasn't just some scammy, weird thing that maybe your cousin got rich on, but it was something that was coming next. Just like when we transitioned to home computers in our home and we use Windows, first we used DOS, then we use Windows. Now we're using Google Cloud and other things like that, right? So that's what's kind of happening in this cryptocurrency world and in this blockchain world. Some of these things that we're seeing right now, they're the earliest, simplest implementation. They're the Pong. They're the Space Invaders. They're the really simple version. Some point 5 years from now, they're going to laugh at Bored Ape Yacht Club. They're going to be like, oh my God, look how simple and stupid that was, as they stand in a hologram 3D or some shit. But that's the start of it. Yeah. It took those things to educate certain people. It's taken this NFT hype to educate people about the possibilities. So if we go talk to Big Snoop Dogg and his son Cordell, he'll say, yeah, I'm still in the music business, but I'm not fucking with streaming. Even the shows I'm barely worried about. It's all these NFTs. Snoop sold $44 million worth of NFTs for his last album within the first week.
Damn.
So now you don't have any you don't have any physical delivery on that. You don't have any labor. You don't have to have some trucks out here driving those things around. how much of that is profit compared to the old day? You know? So I've been running my mouth, man. I'm ready for any questions you got.
You took me back. I was gonna ask you 81. What computer was you on back then?
Thank you for asking that. It was a TRS-80 Model 1. Did you used to get from Radio Shack? Radio Shack had a series of computers called the TRS-80 computers. And that was the first computer. And not only that, though, so I was going to a middle school. I was in the 8th grade. And then my family had just moved that summer. I was like one of 2 Black people in the class. My teacher came to me and said, Maxie, would you like to have an extracurricular activity during the lunch break that you could get credit for or whatever, and just take this form home and sign it? So I took the form home and came back. Next day, they put me and a white guy in a room with a TRS-80 computer and a book. That was it. Now I understand that shit was some sort of test, you know. but that's when I from that point in October of 1981, the longest I've gone without using personal computers has been two weeks while I was in Africa.
It seemed like it was a racist test.
It was, I'm sure.
So who won the test?
I never stopped. I didn't stop. Once the experiment was up, I kept going and using the computers, and I never stopped. You know, but yeah, it was. They put me, a white guy, in a room with a book and a computer, and no instruction, no nothing. Yep. And so that was my launch into personal computers. You know, and the thing is, though, as I look at these new trends, as these new trends come around, I still act like that first day. As I started hearing about the blockchain and about NFT and start seeing it's relevant, I start immersing just like I did all those years ago. Because I understand that that's where our independence lies. You know, it's not just the independence of having enough in the bank account to be called independent. It is knowing this technology that we need to navigate this world that is coming, you know, and there's a whole bunch of young and old folks who are scared of it. But, you know, these robots, this artificial intelligence, man, this shit is real. It's here. I mean,
it's already here anyway. It ain't even coming. It's already here.
Man, I just talked to this dude the other day. You know what his job is? He goes around and helps set up robot waiters in restaurants. That's his job. He goes around, programs it, walks the robot around the restaurant so the people, and then at that point, it goes back and forth between the kitchen to the tables, delivering the food.
Yeah, I remember so this was 2012, man. I was the manager at a lab. And then even the manager, the CEO dude was telling me, man, he was trying to get this machine. You know, the machine work quicker than the people, man. You get that, pay that machine one time. You got to pay the people years. They was talking about that years ago. They've been trying to figure that shit out. They say that's not the reason behind it, but you always know that's the reason behind it.
Hey, man, you know, and that's then we have a choice, you know, especially if you're in college right now, or if you're a young folk, because the reality is young people have more non-college career options now than ever, you know. So my mom, still to this day, 75 years old, teaching at UNLV, professor, you know, 5 of my sisters, masters, PhDs, you know, but for me and my brothers, we were always entrepreneurs. It was always about, you know, business and arts, you know. So when we look at the world that these young folks are preparing for, if you want to go, you don't know what you want to do, you're trying to figure some shit out, go get a computer security certificate. You know, go take that 8-week, 12-week security, you know, training, you know, go learn how to design some websites at the enterprise level. You know, these things don't take years of training. You know, even as we're talking about the blockchain and token, we are so first generation that if you come across somebody who says, I'm a blockchain expert with arrogance, you got to question that motherfucker. Because anybody who's truly a blockchain expert is going to know this is all changing so fast right now, you know, that we have to be humble and willing to learn, you know. So as I talk about these young folks and we say, all right, again, computer security, career option, never available previously. Computer programmer and developer. You know, yes, you had to go to school and study computer information systems previously. No, if you want to learn how to program for the blockchain right now, you can go to cryptozombies.com and then learn how to make a game for free using this programming language called Solidity. They teach you how to use that language by making a crypto app that you own. You know, We couldn't do that before. When I wanted to learn about computers, I had to go to the library. I had to hook school in Columbia, Maryland at 14 years old, jump on a bus from Columbia to DC to the Library of Congress to go find some of these books on how to use this technology. At this very moment, any of our nieces and nephews, any of these young folks in their teens and 20s who are trying to figure it out, go jump on Crypto Zombies. Go jump on Career Karma, a Black-owned company where Career Karma matches people seeking careers with some of these programming certificates and opportunities out there. Young brothers built that company into a multi-million-dollar company just the past few years. So again, I'm excited to talk about Paper Chasers and what we're doing with the new coming around, but I'm even more excited to educate people about some of these digital opportunities that we have today that we didn't have pre-pandemic. The pandemic accelerated so many things in this technology space, creating so many opportunities. So if people are looking over their shoulder, or if you're looking in the rear view, if you're worrying about missing out on some past trends or you didn't do this, no, you could be 65 years old, newly retired right now. And if you open up your mind, you can learn some digital opportunities. It doesn't matter whether it's opening a Shopify store and selling your own custom merch. It could be going to Amazon Kindle, KDP, and publishing that book that's been in your head, because you can go on to Google and get into Google Docs and click that thing that says voice tool, and you can start talking to your computer, and you can sit back and write your memoir. You can sit back, talk to Google Docs, and write a book. You could write a book, Poe, on podcasting, 10-year lessons learned during 15 years of podcasting. You see what I'm saying? So, and it doesn't have to be a big, expansive book. I wrote.
You know what I'm gonna say?
Say what? Say what?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be one page. I'm gonna say the podcasting industry is shady. That's gonna be the end of the book.
So you're saying industry rule number 4080 applies to podcasting?
Yep. Nah, yeah, that'd be dope. Nah, that's tight, man. You dropped a lot of game on this though.
Well, man, that's my objective, because at one point in time, I was so disenchanted. After Paper Chasers came out here's what happened. I had these distribution offers and these distribution deals pending. I would take the contract as they would come in from what is now E1. I would take the contracts and I would turn them into mathematical models using Microsoft Excel. So contracts are English language. The way they bamboozle us is using these languages and using the intricacies of this language. For those of us who can think in numbers, we say, okay, let's get out of the words and turn it into a formula. If you're claiming you're going to pay me some royalties 10 years down the line, let's calculate what that shit may look like with some projections, right? So that's been my approach to contracting and to contracts for a very long time, is to turn the contracts into numbers and models and compare those. So when I did that with Paper Chasers, offer number 7 from Koch E1, I knew I was never going to make any money. I crunched those numbers and I knew under no circumstance was I going to make any money. So what that made me do was modify the contract. So the one, you're only getting this movie. You are not getting any sequels. You're not getting my master tapes. You're just getting this movie. That's called splitting the rights. You're not getting my book rights. You're not getting my soundtrack rights. You're getting this one movie. And not only that, though, I'm limiting how long you have the rights to distribute it. You have 7 years to distribute it. After that point, it reverts back to me and the independent film channel, my partners. These were things that I learned at BET. These were things that I learned from folks talking to me about shady contracts while I was standing there as a stage manager, and they're sitting here telling me, to see some of our favorite celebrities in pain, upset, because they know they're getting fucked and nobody knows. We heard, it was news a year and a half ago, De La Soul owes $3 million supposedly for their classic record. Everybody was up in an uproar. But hey, you know what? Stevie Wonder just came out of a 66-year record deal. 60 years.
Damn.
Can you imagine making some shit for 60 years?
So they signed him when he was little Stevie Wonder, huh?
That's what they did with MC Lyte. That's what they did. A lot of the OG legends were signed as teenagers. DJ Prince Paul, I interviewed him for Paper Chasers, and he talked about that explicitly, about them being signed to deals while teenagers. You know, so here you are, maybe with the lawyer, maybe not with the lawyer, most likely not, but you're now signing away your whole adult professional career.
Now I thought about it. You know, I think I saw your DVD. I rented it from Blockbuster. You had it in Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, it was in Blockbuster. It was in Netflix.
That's how I got it. Because I was like, I would have kept it. So I was like, I don't got it. So I was like, yeah, I remember I rented it from Blockbuster.
Well, I appreciate that, man. You know, so that's why now we're revisiting this now, you know, so.
That shit was real. It was just real, man. Like I felt the realness there. You was kind of like, you was like hitting them like Diddy. I remember you was kind of on them. That's what I remember too. I remember you was on the crew, like making them step their game up and stuff.
We had to because there was much on the line. You know, the Independent Film Channel was a small company at that time. You know, I had come to them and said, hey, I want to do this documentary project. So what happened is I wrote a book on digital filmmaking in the late 90s. Basically, I took all my film and TV experience and combined it with my computer experience. And I wrote this book on digital filmmaking. It was one of the first bestsellers on digital filmmaking. That's what created the opportunity for me to do the Paper Chasers with the Independent Film Channel, you know. And so now all these years later, you know, there was a period of time after I handed that DVD in, knowing I was not going to be getting any money, knowing that my project that I spent 5 years on was going to be on lock with the distributors for 7 years. There was a period of time where I just got mad salty, you know, where the business, you know, where I had taken losses, and I was just like, fuck show business. You know, I had thought that our project would be an exception, but it was the norm, you know. And so, but what became the exception was when those rights came back to me, you know. So now here we are, 2022, and I still have all my original tapes, except for about 10% of them. Some of my best tapes were stolen a few years ago. Yeah. But I have the bulk. I can't even talk about it, too painful. But I have the bulk still of my library. And so now what we're doing is we're doing the Paper Chasers 2 series. And the idea here is no, it's not going to be Maxie in an RV with some people driving across country interviewing folks. It is instead, I'm putting together a new crew of young folks, of ambitious hip hop heads, entrepreneurs, recording artists, and I'm going to take them back to these cities. And so in those cities, I'm going to do follow-up interviews with some of the people I filmed, but I'm going to send these young folks out so they can go experience some of what me and my crew did. The opportunity to talk to one of your idols or the people who you've admired or people who you've studied. You know, I want to create the opportunity for minds to come together, young and old minds. And then also, I want to do a cross-generational look at how some of the hip hop heads I interviewed before, how now their children are in the game in different ways. So for example, Jay Prince from Rap-A-Lot Records. You know, when I interviewed Jay Prince, you know, he had 1,000-acre cattle ranch in Texas, right? And I thought, that's the shit. Now, 20 years, now his son, Jazz Prince, he's the one who discovered Drake and took Drake to Cash Money. Mm-hmm. And Jay Prince has an island in Belize now.
Yeah, no, he the homie. He done been on the podcast a couple times.
Oh man, so now that's what I want to do. Imagine interviewing Jay Prince and Jazz at the same time as we talk about both generations of lessons. Then we go do the same thing with Ludacris and his daughter Karma. Karma has a show on Netflix right now called Karma's World. You know, and so it's looking at how some of these heads have prepared their children for the treachery, but also the potential successes of show business. I mean, Benzino and his daughter. I mean, there's, you know, all sorts of people out here who have their kids in the business, either in front of the camera, in front of the mic, or behind the scene.
Yeah, Paul said his son works for Quality Control now. You know, Quality Control is like Migos and all them.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he said he working with them now.
Yeah, you know, did he talk about the shady? I'm sure he had so much to say about the shady.
He had a lot of shit to say.
But I tease Paul because I say, see, Paul, when you were young, you were a part of it. You were the voiceover introducing these videos. And he says, oh, no, that music nowadays, the music. No, I say to people, come on, y'all, let's not romanticize it. They said checkbook, credit cards, more money than a sucker could ever spend. They've been talking about money in hip hop from day one.
Yeah.
They've been talking about cars in hip hop at day one. They've been talking about women in hip hop from day one. So and every generation has the material and the underground hip hop. Just like right now, a lot of us have been invigorated by this group Coast Contra. Have you checked these young dudes out? Oh, please check out Coast Contra. They got this old school Jurassic 5 or some of these other groups, but they're just off the chain. Straight up real, authentic hip hop, But again, though, we can sit here, or even Tech Nine. Tech Nine is, he's in his 50s, or he's in his 40s, but he's just blown. He's an MC who's built his own lane. He's put out his own music. He's handled his own business.
You got the rock rapping.
Yeah, I mean, but he's found an audience. Yeah. Whatever, because that's the other thing too. The OGs, we were all about genres. I was East Coast. So when I was coming up as a kid, if you didn't come from New York, you weren't hip hop. Now, the funny thing is, we were in Maryland, but we still rocked that attitude. If you weren't a DJ or an MC or a B-boy or a graph artist from New York, you were not real hip hop. That was our generation's attitude, right? But then we can go look at Little Nas X down there in Tennessee, Nashville, connecting to a producer over in Sweden and making a hit song. And so I'm not quick to try to put things into the old genres that we came up with, because the radio stations and TV stations, they force that on us, right? When we look at some of these young folks now, man, they're breaking all sorts of genres and just making their own lanes. It took me a minute to understand Tyler, the Creator, and the Odd Futures crew. Right? Oh, yeah. Because the OG head in me was like, man, look at these kids. They like throwing up and they doing shit and they talking all the drugs, but then I had to shift my focus and really not let that thing bias me. And then I saw, oh shit, Tyler's a genius, just like RZA. He brought a crew of people together and he did A&R with his homies. And then he created a business and launched careers. I love Vince Staples. And so when you look and see how the generational bias is kind of like keeping us thinking our music's better, what we had was better, the world was better. Oh, these kids is fucked up. Nah, man, I'm like, come on, let's listen to these young folks. Let's listen to what they're scared about. Let's listen to what they're excited about. Let's listen to the tech that they know. Okay, now let's share with them. Let's share with them some of these business lessons that we learned. Let's share with them some of these management and organization lessons that we learned, and let's let this shit be cross-generational. We grew up thinking that the OGs and elders had all the wisdom. That's the way I was raised, from my family in Maryland, but we were Tennessee and Georgia roots. So we were taught that the elders had the wisdom. And it often meant shut up and be quiet when listening to the elders.
Yeah, I had to learn that my hard way. Some old fools walking around though.
And some young geniuses, some young gods who got their head right, and then the other thing is we talk about all this that I had to learn. And again, this is going to be a whole nother documentary for my son and I, is the role of being on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, and the role that has in arts in the Black community. So my son was diagnosed with autism as a young boy, right? But as he got older and I saw some of his habits, there's one called rumination that's focusing on something. You play a song today, I could play it 20 times over and over. That's called rumination, right? There's something else called stemming. That's constant movement. That's the need to constantly do a movement, right? My friends will tell you I'm always rocking. I'm always moving, So I recognize, oh shit, in my 40s, I'm on the fucking autism spectrum. My dad was a psychiatrist. He had to know. But what he did was normalize his kids to the best. He had 8 children, so to the best of our possibility, he taught us, how to deal with the anxiety. Like, so right now, you hear all these young people talk about anxiety, and things. I didn't understand that by being on the autism spectrum, that social anxiety is one of the aspects of it. I always had the ability to talk like you and I are talking right now. I could talk for hours. Look how much I've been running my mouth. But get me outside of here and ask me about shoes, ask me about basketball games, ask me about some shit, and I'm going to be the quiet guy over here while my brother's over there talking. And I learned that ties into my social issues, some of my social issues with me being on the spectrum, and so the best of my strengths are tied to some of this, and some of my greatest life challenges have been tied to it as well. It just, I didn't know, and so now we have a world where young people can be properly or improperly diagnosed with things, if get help and treatment and get support systems. When I was coming up, it was either short bus or gifted and talented. Maxie, you belong in one of them.
Right.
And so it was the constant fight to keep me out of the short bus, but they wouldn't let me into the gifted and talented. So now when a child is properly knows their special gifts and knows their special challenges, they can be guided and coached and mentored in whole different ways. So one size fits all teaching, that shit's done. Thank God. Now it is IED, special individual education development programs, and all sort of things. These, when they're not seen with negative stigmas, can be such a saving grace for people with specialized skills. When our son moved with us, I fought for years for him to be able to come live with us. At 18, he moved with us in January, right? We were quarantined together starting in March, and he was registered in college. He had done one semester of college before, but he struggled through it. He moved with us, my wife and I, we immediately started from ground zero with the study skills, the reading skills, the anxiety management techniques.
What's ground zero?
Ground zero is literally starting from a book and saying, read 5 pages, take a break 10 minutes, because he couldn't focus. All right, cool. Take a break. Let's do some push-ups. Let's do some. All right, let's come right back to the book. So we had to teach him focusing techniques, and we had to teach him stress management techniques and anxiety management. I was a martial arts from a young man. Those were techniques that were built into my childhood as a result of that. So we had to teach him meditation and breathing and things. And I'll tell you right now, Chris, I thank God. Our son right now, and he was only in 2 classes each semester, 2 classes. Right now, he is almost a junior with 18 credits. Right now, he's in his final exam week. This has been the semester where my wife and I have helped him the least, and he has a 3.7 GPA. He got scholarships and everything, but we say to ourselves, what if we hadn't caught him? What if he had only been subjected to this traditional system that makes him feel fucked up or less than, And so we caught him, and so that's part of my value that I want to do when we do this documentary talking about autism in the Black community. I want to remove the stigma. I want to address strategies and techniques. And I want to talk about how many of us have been self-medicating for years. Cannabis has been key to me sleeping and slowing my brain down and dealing with anxiety for years, long before it was popular, Hey.
Nah, man, you was talking about that school shit, man. You had triggered me, man. 'Cause I remember, I was in the 1st or 2nd grade, and I was studying they had me going to the, gifted stuff and testing for those, but I didn't make it. But then one of my teachers, she was a Black teacher, and I guess I was in there just acting up because I was always just active kid, class clown. And she sent me to the special ed class, and I'm in there even when I'm little, I'm like, what the fuck she got me in here for? I ain't like these kids. And then she brought me back. When I came back, she was like, that's how you acting. And I'm like, man, these teachers, that's why I'm really nervous about putting my kids through school, because they try to curse you and just put stuff on you.
Yeah. And not only that, though, they try to label you or brand you from kindergarten and have that shit follow you all the way to senior graduation if you're not careful or intervention. But again, though, online learning, special class. There's charter
we looking
schools.
At charter. I was going to say we doing charter program for our stepson.
And again, understanding that each person learns differently. You're gonna have somebody out here who can learn all day long from videos. Somebody else needs to hold a book. Somebody else needs to hear you say it. Somebody else needs to see you do it. So now they understand that there's different teaching and learning styles. But before it was, and like you said, one teacher, one book, one assignment, 35 students, either you getting it and following the masses or you're not, So I'm sorry to trigger you, man. I'm sorry to trigger you, but many of us went through that shit, bro.
And then what you were saying about, I was going to ask you, we about to wrap it up, but I want to ask you about the martial arts a little bit. So what are you training in?
Oh man. So my granddad, my granddad was a part of my life all my life. So when we were kids, he had us boxing, you know, and but I always had so many brothers and sisters, cousins. So we were always then, okay, so we always scrapped, you know, we always scrapped. It was just always a bunch of us, you know, we were always roughhouse. But then when I was 14 years old, I was a break dancer by that point. I met a guy named Ali Hassan in Baltimore. And Sensei Ali Hassan had been a part of a team called the Avengers. And the Avengers came out of Baltimore, world famous, from a guy named Riley Hawkins. Riley Hawkins had gone over to Vietnam and learned martial arts, came back into the hood of Baltimore, Cherry Hill, and started schooling these young cats. And so at a certain point in time, the Avengers were famous up and down the East Coast for their fighting style and stuff like that. Riley Hawkins, Sensei Ali Hassan. So there I was, 14, a break dancer, and I met Ali Hassan, and he helped channel all that breakdancing energy into martial arts, you know, and you know, to this day, I still do my nunchucks. And I'll tell you, I got a secret plan that I just put out on my calendar where I'm preparing myself to lose weight, train, and do my first karate tournament in 20 plus years. You know, it's going to be August 5th through 7th in DC at the Capitol Classics. I'm going to be up in that motherfucker, you know, my first tournament in 25 plus years. Because what happened when my son went to school, all of a sudden we had empty nests and Pop started putting on the weight and Pop started getting lazy with training. So now I put that as my own goal, you know, the DC Capitol Classics, which I competed in all through the 80s. I'm going to go ahead and do it in the 50 plus category this fall.
You got to keep us posted.
Yeah, I will indeed, man. You know, especially as the training progresses. Now, what about you? What's your martial arts background?
No, I don't really. I be boxing a little bit. I was thinking about getting into boxing. That's why martial arts is what I'm asking. Like I met this one guy. He says he's a sensei for Chinese boxing. So he was telling me about that. But only thing I do on my own is like, I just box on my own. I've been doing that for like, I think I started like 2018. So I've been doing the boxing since then, but I'm thinking about other stuff. Then I went to the UFC gym, but I don't really like wrestling like that. I like more striking and shit. But I got a heavy bag out in the front, man. I started throwing kicks. I was like, damn, it's hard throwing kicks. I'm just used to throwing my hands. I was like, damn, it's hard throwing kicks. So I was like, let me start incorporating more kicks into my workouts too.
So if you want a traditional school, there's actually, so the style that I was trained in was called Okinawan Shorin-ryu, right? And there's actually two of those schools. There used to be one right there in Vista and one in, so there's a couple of good traditional martial arts schools.
That's the one my uncle, like growing up, my uncle used to do, I know he used to do the Okinawa one, and he used to like, you know, I used to train with him. So I guess you count that when I was little. That was the hood way. Somebody in the family learned, they come back and show you. That's how he was doing it.
Man, come on. That's what Riley Hawkins did in Baltimore, you know. And again, the idea that one person could influence so many generations of people, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a classic martial arts, you know, movie one day. I've got several ideas in mind.
Yeah, that would be tight, especially if you just highlight like the, you know, black martial arts, because there's a lot of them that we don't know about.
Oh man, you get on Instagram, these young kids, man, they are so inspiring with their combination of martial arts, gymnastics, tricking, parkour, you know, all these sports, man. I'm just, you know, as an old school B-boy, you know, whose knees are saying, you can't do none of that shit no more. I love what this new generation is doing. You know, I love the fact that the next levels that they've taken it to. I mean, in martial arts and in breakdancing. Amazing.
And then next time you come out to San Diego, we got to catch up.
Yeah, man, definitely, man. We'll love that, man. You know, I miss the ocean and everything, but I love Vegas as well.
Yeah, it's expensive out here, but it's expensive. That's the only thing about here. God damn.
Yeah, but then when you get up here to that desert, you miss that ocean breeze, bro.
And then I would say, what would you like to say to your fans and supporters?
My cousin once referred to me as Finding Forrester. And he said that because, you know, my cousin Troy, he'd be out doing video productions all over the country. And he'd come across people who either had been in Paper Chasers or were fans of it or were my supporters, you know, along the way. And he would put people on the phone, you know, and I would always say, thank you for believing in me then, but please check out what we're doing now, because we're pulling all that experience up to create something new and great. And our platform that we're building now is called contentcreators.me. And so Content Creators combines online training classes with templates and specialized apps to help make it easier for people to create videos, podcasts, books, websites, and things like that. So please check us out at contentcreators.me. But most of all, don't get discouraged by the fuckery that you encounter in this business. Whether you're male, female, or other, at every step of the way are going to be opportunities to compromise yourself, to compromise your art, to compromise your crew, your business. You have to maintain that focus and that vision and passion. Daymond John told me, pioneers get slaughtered, settlers prosper. So know when you're being a pioneer and have realistic expectations, and know when you're being a settler and adjust your expectations and run accordingly. The game is changing and evolving. What worked a year ago, what worked 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, clearly is not working now. So the Etch-a-Sketch has been shook, and there's opportunity for fresh ideas, for fresh presentations, fresh business models. Carpe momento, seize the moment. Seize these moments that we have right now and make something great. And by all means, shoot me an email, maxie@superlivestreams.com, and share what you've made great with me. I would love to see it and share it with the world too.
Hey, bro, I want to say thanks for coming through politicking with me.
Hey, Chris, man, again, much respect to you, bro. And I look forward to seeing this podcast. And please keep doing what you're doing. And definitely don't, there's a website called CJ, commissionjunction.com, right? You can go on cj.com and you can find companies for affiliates. So for example, DirecTV at one time was an affiliate on Commission Junction. You sign up there, they give you a phone number. You can shout that out in your podcast and say, hey, sign up for DirecTV and I get a little cut. So these are ways that you can monetize your podcast. Again, I mentioned the idea of you transcribing. There's a service we use called Descript. Descript.com will help you transcribe your podcast. Here's how dope this is, Chris. It turns your podcast into audio, and then it lets you edit your podcast using the words. So you can go in there and delete or a word from the transcript. It deletes it in the audio and video file.
Wow.
Yeah. So now imagine you take the best of, and it's called The Best of PoPolitickin. And I will buy that book. It can be 10 of, 100, not even 50 of your best interviews. You take a screenshot, you take the transcription, and you say, if you want to support me, just buy my book. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Yep. So
it's been in my years. I just ain't did it yet. I got to get it done.
Well, that's where sites like Fiverr and Upwork, they can help with that. Because now you can go to upwork.com, you can go to fiverr.com, and you can find that help. So now it's not just you. You can find someone who every episode they transcribe it, make a thumbnail, and get that back to you for $10, $15, or whatever it is. Because that's the other thing that I learned we have to do to elevate ourselves from individual artists to enterprise, is that we have to bring on people, no matter what mistrust, what worries or concerns. We have to bring on other people to help replace what we do so we can go focus on other things.
Yeah. All right, brother. We're gonna have to catch up soon. I'm gonna have to talk.
Come on to Vegas. Let me know when you're up in Vegas, man.
All right, for sure. I will.
All right, for sure, man. I appreciate you reaching out, rescheduling, and being a supporter for so